They should be working.
Testing. There we go. Doug, you ready? Welcome to the Mobile City Planning Commission meeting for July 18, 2024. In just a moment, I will review our general operating procedures, but at this time, I'll turn it over to our legal counsel, Mr. Doug Anderson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First, I want to introduce the gentleman sitting behind me, Skipper Snipes. He is a law clerk working with us for the second half of the summer. He just completed his first year of law school at the University of Alabama and is a graduate of UMS Wright. And he's a great guy. Secondly, at the end of the meeting last month, we talked a little bit about that being Margaret's last meeting. It was at the end of the meeting. Nobody was here. And what was said was not heard by many. And I wanted to take this opportunity to make some comments at the beginning of the meeting while people were here and while people were watching on YouTube streaming about Margaret. I had been involved with this planning commission since 1994, first as a planning commission member, then several years as an attorney representing developers before this commission, in the last 11 years as your attorney. Over those 30 years, there have been 4 directors of the zoning division. All did a great job, but none of them did as good a job as Margaret Pappas. Her workload, I had contact with her not daily, but several times a week. Her workload is tremendous. She probably has participated in more Zoom meetings in the last 5 years than all of us combined. If she's not on a Zoom meeting, she's getting a call from a lawyer, somebody from upstairs, a surveyor, an engineer, a developer. Her plate has always been full. On top of that, in the last several years, she, along with Shayla and Bert and Jim Rossler, wrote our new zoning ordinance. Hundreds and hundreds of hours she spent on top of doing her regular job and never missed a beat. She was able to do this because of her intelligence, her personality, and her communication skills. She excels in all 3. She has one thing. When Mayor Stimson took over, his goal for every department was to be user-friendly and business-friendly. And I've been fortunate enough in my career to appear before planning commissions and city councils in numerous jurisdictions in South Alabama. And many times you would go and it's nothing but roadblocks. They say, sorry, you can't do that. You're going to be denied. Margaret's just the opposite. She always worked with lawyers, developers, property owners to find a way to get things done so our city could prosper. She has just been a tremendous asset to the city. She's been a tremendous asset personally and professionally to me. And I just wanted to give her that recognition that she deserves. This city is going to miss her tremendously. And I don't care who Shayla hires to put in this chair. She's going to have huge shoes to fill. So with that, Margaret, thank you for all you've done for our city.
Thank you, Doug. And again, Margaret, well-deserved comments from a true professional. We appreciate both Doug and certainly appreciate Margaret. Also, welcome to Mr. Snipes. We hope that you will enjoy your time in this meeting today, and good luck on your future. I'd like to take a moment to review our general operating procedures. This meeting is divided into two sessions, public hearing and deliberation. In the public hearing, an agenda item is called. The applicant makes their presentation. Commission members ask questions, if any, and members of the public make their comments to the commission. Only 4 people can speak for an agenda item and 4 people against an item. Each speaker is limited to 5 minutes, subject to questions by the commission. At 1 minute, a speaker will hear a warning bell or a beep, and we ask that at that time you summarize your comments. After any opposition speakers have spoken, an applicant is allowed a 2-minute rebuttal. If you do intend to speak, come to the podium at the bottom of the stairs, speak into the microphone, and provide your name and address for the record. Please direct all your comments to the commission only and not to the applicant, the staff, or the audience. After hearing all the applications, we will then go into deliberation where we discuss each application with input from staff as necessary, but with no input from the audience. Commissioners then vote on each application, and the results of that voting can be learned from the planning department. If some issues arise during deliberation that were not addressed in the public hearing, we have the discretion to allow additional comments to resolve those issues or call for the application to be held over for discussion at a future meeting. Occasionally, commissioners will recuse themselves from discussing and voting on an application. That doesn't mean they are directly involved. However, the circumstances, ethical rules may require the recusal, even if there's only the slightest appearance of a conflict of interest. If a regular member recuses, a supernumerary votes in their stead. A reminder that the Planning Commission makes final decisions on subdivisions with appeals of these decisions to the Circuit Court. The Planning Commission is strictly a recommending body for rezonings, conditional use permits, and plan developments. The City Council makes the final decision on these applications, and all appeals of City Council decisions are to the Circuit Court. At this time, if you haven't done it already, please turn your cell phones to silent or vibrate and any other electronic devices to off. Commissioners and staff, double check your microphones. I will call the roll. Myself, Jay Stubbs, present. Mr. Kirk Matei, Ms. Jennifer Denson, Ms. Shirley Sessions, Mr. Larry Dorsey, Mr. Chad Anderson.
Here.
Mr. Matt Anderson. Mr. Nick Amberger.
Here.
Mr. Josh Woods.
Here.
Mr. Harry Brislin. Here. Mr. Kenny Nichols. We do have a quorum, and I will entertain a motion to approve the July 18th agenda that has 11 items listed.
So moved.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
The motion for the agenda passes. As with all good captains in the air, we are a little delayed in starting, but I'll make up some time now that we are in the air. Number 1, the subdivision 109 Randolph Street. This is a subdivision of 1 lot, approximately 1/10 of an acre. It is 8 conditions listed. Is the applicant present? The applicant's present and in agreement with the 8 conditions listed. The applicant is present and in agreement. Is anyone else here to speak for this subdivision application at 109 Randolph Street? Anyone here to speak in opposition to it? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 2. This is a subdivision application at 2216 Roosevelt Avenue, the Eau Claire subdivision, a re-subdivision of a portion of lots 11, 12, and 13. This is a subdivision of just 1 lot at 1/5 of an acre. Applicant is at the podium. Go ahead. Make sure that one's on. But go ahead, Brett. Right-hand side red. That one.
Let's go.
All right, there we go. Yeah, so just wanted to address the dedication comment, item number 1. This is currently a 40-foot, very minor cut-through street. It does state in the planning, has stated that it is already a curb and gutter there. Very established. This is part of the housing project. You continue to see applications on every 2 weeks. So I'm here to request that a dedication not be required due to the curb and gutter being in place, right-of-way established, the housing already established in this area not being disruptive. So just asking that on item number 1, where the section states or revision of the plat for Roosevelt based on its width of right-of-way in lieu of dedication to be stricken, and then basically that the retention of the right-of-way width basically just be waived. That would keep everything consistent with the neighborhood there. So,
All right, thank you, Mr. Royal. Is there anyone on staff that can comment towards that? Or would like to comment towards that? And while they ponder it, any questions from commissioners on his request?
In the conditions there, it says waiver of section 6B9, and that is the section that would need to be waived to grant his request.
6B is in Bravo, 9?
B9, and that would be on your agenda as well.
Any questions or comments from commissioners regarding number 1 and 6B9 of the section? Is there anyone else here to speak for this agenda item at 2216 Roosevelt Avenue? Anyone here to speak against it? Seeing none, we will move on to number 3. This is a subdivision at 7125 Bellingrath Road, re-subdivision of Lot 2B, re-subdivision of Lot 2, Parcel A, First Baptist Church of Theodore, subdivision of 2 lots just at 11 acres. There are 8 conditions listed. Is the applicant present? In agreement with the 8, the applicant is present and in agreement. Anyone here to speak for this agenda item? Anyone here to speak against it? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 4, subdivision at 2223 River Forest Road, the River Forest subdivision, the re-subdivision of Lot 32. This is a subdivision of 2 lots at 2.7 acres. There are 7 conditions listed. Is the applicant present? At a wave of a hand, applicant is present in agreement with the 7 conditions. That's affirmative. Anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Anyone here to speak against it? We will move on to number 5. This is a subdivision, 7335 Old Military Road, Chastity's Woods subdivision, 2 lots at 7.34 acres. There are 7 conditions listed. Is the applicant present? Are you in agreement with the 7 conditions listed on the subdivision? They are in agreement with nod of head.
73 Old
Hold on.
Military?
7335 Old Military Road.
Yes.
Okay, so are you here to speak? Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition or have questions for it?
I'm against it.
Okay, yes, ma'am. You'll pull the microphone down a little bit at the podium, state your name and address for the record. Make sure you speak clearly into the microphone.
My name is Daria Rice. My address is 7330 Bowers Lane. I'm adjacent to this property, and I'm against whatever, because I've been there since 1999. I'm established, and I don't wish to move.
All right, thank you, Ms. Rice. Is there anyone else here? Yes, ma'am. Come on down, and you can state your name and address for the record.
Gwendolyn Pettaway, 7341 Old Military Road. I would be next door to this subdivision. And I just have some concerns because the way that property sits, there is one house on the front. This is the house that they bought with the land. And I'm assuming that they're planning to put 2 other houses behind this house. And I just don't know how they'll be able to, I guess they'll have to build a road to come in and out of there. And as it stands, we have so many problems now with flooding in our area. And I just don't know what all of the plans are for this property, but I'm against this unless I can see something that tells me differently, that they're not going to be trying to cut a road through there, because it's right next door to me.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, if you see up there, Lot 2 in the back, they can only build 1 house on that. So it will be a 2-lot subdivision. Lot 1 will have the house that's currently there. And with Lot 2, by law, they can only build one house.
So they're not building two?
I don't know what you're doing, but legally, they can only build one.
Okay.
One
Because,
house on one lot.
okay, because what we got said that they were planning to build two houses, subdivision. It said a subdivision with two houses, so I assumed that they were building two additional houses. But still, that house is going to what, come behind the first house?
Well, the proposal is to divide the property into two lots. So that would allow the existing house to remain and a new house to be built on lot 2. So that would be a total of 2 houses. So only one of them would be potentially brand new.
Okay, but it will be behind the first house.
Yes, ma'am, it will be, because
Okay,
they'll have
so-
access along this finger of land that goes back to the larger portion.
Right, and so that means that they'll need to build a road for that second house?
They would
because
need to build a driveway.
a driveway to come out to the street.
Yes, ma'am.
Or point out that the action before us today is just to subdivide the land. It's not issuing building permits or anything like that. All they brought forward to us today is just creating two separate lots. So there's no houses that have been presented to us for plans. There's nothing for roads being built in. It's just to make that one large piece of property 2 pieces of property. That's
Yeah,
all
I
that's before this
understand
body.
that. I understand the two lots, but I just have concerns. Like I said, we have a lot of problems with flooding in that area. Nobody seems to want to come out and clean the ditches out, and so every time it rains, they overflow into my yard. And so that's where my concerns lay.
All right, thank you, Ms. Petway. We have room for 2 more speakers if they would like to address concerns with this application. And I don't see any. We will allow the applicant to make any comments towards the 2 speakers who are in favor or have questions towards it. Nothing. You're welcome to give me a no go sign. I'm okay to move forward. Okay. Don't forget to state your name and address for the record.
This on Gerald Gibbs, 365 Dykes Road South. There's no plan right now to develop that back lot. We're separating it for maybe future. And you know that if there's something done there, there will be a process of approval for planning commission. And if we do, you know that we will be required to do any drainage work, so there's no problem with adjacent properties. So whatever we do, we will do in accordance with planning commission. But right now, it's just separation to sell the house off of it.
Understood. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
So just to clarify, this is simply a subdivision from 1 lot to 2 with no future development at this time planned, and any future development would go through the approval process for that. Thank you. Moving on to any questions or comments from commissioners? Thank you for those that did comment. Number 6 on the subdivision.
Mr. Chairman,
Go ahead.
If I would, this is just a brief comment. The folks that spoke in opposition, they are correct about the drainage that's down there. It is a challenging area from a drainage standpoint. So for the applicant, should you move forward, should you move forward with doing something on that property, you certainly should have, consult with a registered engineer and the neighbors about what the history of the drainage is down there. It's very flat. It's very hard to improve the drainage. So before a structure was considered, you definitely need to do your homework on what's doable. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Amberger. Number 6 on today's agenda, subdivision at 810 Wildwood Drive and 4056 Hillcrest Lane West, Vivian's Homes subdivision. This is a subdivision of 4 lots at 1.65 acres with 11 conditions listed that could apply. Is the applicant present? The applicant is present. Are you in agreement with the 11 thumbs up from the 11 listed conditions? Is there anyone here to speak in favor of this application? Is there anyone here to speak against it? Please come down and speak your name and address for the minutes.
Good afternoon, Alex Wood here on behalf of G5 Realty, an adjacent property owner at 4055 Cottage Hill Road. We really just have a question at this point, and that is whether during the construction phase there would be any issues with traffic or whether Wildwood Road or Cottage Hill Road would be closed, or access would be disrupted. Our parcel is situated at the corner of Cottage Hill and Wildwood Drive and contains retail shopping. So any disruption to the flow of traffic would negatively impact us if there would be a disruption to the flow of traffic.
Thank you, Ms. Wood. As the previous agenda item, also, this is simply the subdivision. There's nothing in the our notes or our files with respect to future development. However, the applicant is present. If you'd like to comment towards that at all. So I didn't get her name or address for the record, but I have a comment from applicant or party that says no future road issues. Also note to the commissioners, Ms. Wood's comments are in writing in front of you as well. Is there anyone else or speak or have questions regarding number 6 on the agenda? This is an 810 Wildwood Drive and 4056 Hillcrest Lane West. All right, seeing none, we'll move on to number 7. This is a subdivision at 261 Rickerby Street, Woodcock Place subdivision. Subdivision of 22 lots at 4.23 acres with 11 conditions listed. Is the applicant present? The applicant is present. Are you in agreement with the 11 listed conditions? We have a thumbs up from the applicant. Is there anyone else here to speak for this agenda item and application at 261 Rickerby Street? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to it or have questions concerning it? Seeing none, we'll move on to number 8. This is a modification, 1480 Satchel Page Drive, major modification of a previously approved planned unit development allowing multiple buildings on a single site with shared access and parking. For commissioners, there would be potentially 8 findings of fact and then 14 conditions. Is the applicant present? Okay, are you in agreement with the 14 listed conditions should the commissioners move forward with this modification? The applicant is present and in agreement with those potential conditions. Is there anyone here to speak in favor of 1480 Satchel Page Drive modification to an existing PUD, planned unit development? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to or have questions or concerns about it? All right, seeing none, we will continue to move on. Number 9 on the agenda, this is a rezone at 4589 Hermitage. I always wonder, that's the pronounced way, Hermitage? Say it how I want it. Avenue and 5340 US Highway 90 West. This is a pre-zoning request pursuant to our code to pre-zone property to B3 upon completion of the annexation process. That B3 would be community business suburban. Commissioners should realize there are 7 potential findings of fact and then 2 listed conditions, traffic engineering and subdivision regulations. Is the applicant present? The applicant is present. Are you in agreement with or understanding of the 2 potential conditions? The applicant is present and in agreement. Considering this is a District 4 pre-zone request, is there any comments or questions from commissioners? Is there anyone else in the audience that has questions regarding this zoning request on agenda item number 9 at 4589 Hermitage Avenue and 5340 US Highway 90 West? All right, moving right along. Number 10 on the on the agenda. This is a subdivision and a sidewalk waiver. This is at 104 Elmira Street, the Gritter family subdivision. The first is the subdivision of 1 lot at 2.66 acres. And then the sidewalk waiver request of construction of sidewalks along Elmira Street, South Royal Street, and St. Emmanuel Street. First and foremost, is the applicant is present on the subdivision. Are you have any comments towards the 9 conditions?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Name and
Patrick
address for the record.
Garcecki, 457 St. Michael Street. On consideration number 4 under the subdivision, the 25-foot front setback along all 3 streets. We would like to say that Elmira Street would be the 25-foot frontage street, and then the other two streets could have the 20-foot as approved by the zoning ordinance or as approved by the Board of Adjustment for side street, side yard setbacks of 20 foot.
I'll defer to staff
Yes,
for that request.
Mr. Chairman, as stated, you would need to waive 6.C.8 to waive the 25-foot setback along San Emmanuel and South Royal Streets, and that would allow the UDC or the zoning ordinance requirement of 20 feet as a side street, side yard setback to apply. So we would just add 6.C.8 to the list of sections to be waived at the top, and that would apply to the two streets.
Will that satisfy your request on number 4, Mr. Garcetti?
Yes, it would.
All right, moving on.
And just, we want to make a note that there is an existing building that is to the north that will be in one of these setbacks. So this will be non-conforming. Is that right, Logan?
Mr. Anderson's correct, that would be a non-conforming structure, and that could continue, but any improvements to that building would have to comply with setbacks.
Understood.
All right, you want to make comments on the sidewalk waiver?
It was, I think everything was recommended for approval, correct?
Well, we are in front of the planning commission, so if we're
And
in,
staff?
yeah, so if we're looking for sidewalk waivers, there's got to be a pretty reasonable request to have that approved.
Okay, well, the location of this lot is in an industrial area with utility poles on all three sides two sides, the east and the west side, that will not allow a sidewalk to be built. Also on the Royal Street side, there's a roadside ditch that will not allow the sidewalk to be built. And on the south side, there's an existing fence that, again, will not allow a sidewalk to be built. There's no sidewalks in the area, and there's similar lots that have gone before the Planning Commission recently in this area that have also have a sidewalk waiver approved, such as 50 Charleston Street.
All right, thank you, Mr. Garcetti. Is there any questions or comments from commissioners regarding the sidewalk waiver and their appeal for that waiver? All right, I'll ask if there's anyone else here to speak in favor of this application at 104 Elmira Street. Anyone here to speak in opposition to or have questions or concerns regarding it? All right, seeing none, we will move on. This is number 11 on the agenda at 2301 McFarland Road, the Anglebrook subdivision. Subdivision of 108 lots, just under 40 acres, and a sidewalk waiver request along McFarland. The applicant is present. Go ahead, sir. Name and address for the record. And it's this microphone. Yeah.
Good afternoon. I'm Tim Lawley with Sawgrass Consulting, 30673 Sergeant Boots Thomas Drive, Spanish Fort, Alabama. At this time, we would like to request both these applications be held over to the September meeting. These projects are some of the ones that were caught up in the rezoning of county property to city property. They were under construction whenever they were zoned in the city. There's a few waiver requests we would like to work out with the BZA prior to coming to the Planning Commission for these sites. So we're anticipating being on the BZA meeting on September 9th. And so again, we would request both these applications be held over to September 19th Planning Commission meeting.
All right, thank you, Mr. Lawley, you said?
Sir.
All right, I'll defer to staff with respect to the agenda for that September Planning Commission meeting and also a reminder of the dates for submission for deadline.
Right. The application deadline for the September 19th meeting is August 19th, so if you anticipate any revisions to this application, it would need to be submitted by then. And the Board of Adjustment application that they're submitting is addressing site coverage issues for their proposed development. He's requesting that be on the September Board of Adjustment agenda.
And your volume of agenda items thus far in September is okay?
We haven't received any applications yet for that meeting. that's too far in advance for our application.
First one, potentially. Is there anyone else here? Thank you, Ms.
Thank you.
Lawley. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor? Since it's on the agenda, the proposed agenda item would be moved to the September Planning Commission meeting, but if you're in the audience and want to speak on this agenda item at 2301 McFarland Road, you are welcome to do so. Or if anyone has any opposition or questions or comments towards this agenda item.
Mr. Chairman, you do have comments at your place that were submitted regarding this application.
I'll direct commissioners to check your agenda number 11, public comment from Mrs. Wiley Arnett. All right, moving on, we will, is this number 12? We're the last one?
We are on number
How
12.
about that? This is a dual application. We have a recusal. This is a dual application zoning and a conditional use permit at 6411 Howells Ferry Road, Branches of Life. And this is a rezone from a multifamily residential suburban district, an R3, to a multifamily residential suburban district, R3, and remove a previous condition of rezoning approval limiting use on the site to assisted living center, and a conditional use permit approval to allow community residence for 16 persons in an R3 multifamily residential suburban district. Commissioners are reminded that there's potentially 7 findings of fact here, and then 2 conditions, and on the conditional use permit, a reminder that there's potentially 10 findings of fact and 10 listed conditions. Is the applicant present? The applicant is present. Regarding the rezone, are you in agreement with the 2 potentially rezone request conditions? The applicant is present with a nod of the head. And then on the conditional use permit, there are 10 listed conditions for the CUP. Are you in agreement with those 10 listed conditions? The applicant is present and in agreement.
Mr. Chairman.
Go right ahead.
Carrie, would you mind? Yeah, question. The staff report and an email I got from Margaret earlier this week talked about the parking spaces. Just make sure that what is shown on the site plan is sufficient.
Yes, Carrie Kamanis for the applicant, 1741 Hunter Avenue, Mobile, Alabama, 36604. There are 16 parking spaces out there. There are 16 bedrooms. Under the provisions of the code, they would need 5 spaces. And so I have sent in a revised site plan, but I did miss condition number 4, so I'm going to send in another revised site plan with condition number 4.
Thank you.
So,
Any questions from commissioners for Ms. Kamanis? All right, thank you, Ms. Kamanis.
Right.
Thank you, Mr. Anderson. Is there anyone else here to speak in favor of this application at 6411 Howells Ferry Road? Is there anyone here to speak in opposition to or have questions or concerns regarding it? All right. Seeing none, we will now close the public hearing session and move into deliberation for commissioners. Going all the way back to number 1 on the agenda. Number 1 on there is 109 Randolph Street. The applicant is present and in agreement with the 8 listed conditions for this subdivision. Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion for subdivision passes. Number 2, 2216 Roosevelt Avenue, subdivision of the 1 lot, 1/5 of an acre. The applicant and 8 conditions. The applicant is present in agreement and requested waiver of 6B9 or item number 1 for the dedication of right-of-way. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendation, modifying note number 1 to not require dedication.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion for subdivision passes. Number 3, subdivision at 7125 Bellingrath Road, First Baptist Church of Theodore. The applicant is present and in agreement with the 8 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion for subdivision passes. Number 4, 2223 River Forest Road subdivision. Applicant is present and in agreement with the 7 listed conditions.
Motion to approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion for subdivision passes. Number 5, 7335 Old Military Road, Chastity's Woods subdivision. This is a subdivision of the 2 lots. We did have 2 speakers that had concerns regarding the subdivision, and one of those speakers was in opposition to it. The applicant is present and in agreement with the 7 listed conditions of the subdivision. Entertain a motion. Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion for subdivision passes. Number 6, 810 Wildwood Drive and 4056 Hillcrest Lane West. Subdivision of 4 lots, 1.65 acres. The applicant was present. We did have comments in person, same in writing, regarding the potential for road issues. Again, it's just a subdivision. The applicant was in agreement with the 11 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendations.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
The motion passes. Number 7, subdivision at 261 Rickerby Street, Woodcock Place subdivision. The applicant is present and in agreement with the 11 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. Number 8, this is a modification at 1480 Satchel Page Drive. Reminder to commissioners for the findings of fact. The applicant is present and in agreement with the 14 listed conditions. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendations, adopting findings of facts A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and H.
Properly moved and seconded with findings of fact all through A through H. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion for modification passes. Number 9, this is a rezone at 4589 Hermitage Amadou and 5340 US Highway 90 West. We have reminder of findings of fact and 2 listed conditions. The applicant is present and in agreement with those. Entertain a motion.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendations, adopting findings of facts A, C, D, E, and G.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded with findings of fact A, C, D, E, and G. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes for rezone. Number 10, dual application. We will take these separately. Subdivision at 104 Elmira Street, the Gritter family subdivision. The applicant is present and in agreement with the 9 listed conditions. Had comments towards number 4 regarding section 6C8 on the setbacks. I'll entertain a motion.
Move to approve, subject to staff recommendations with revisions to number 4 on Elmira, with Elmira having a 25-foot setback and the other side street setbacks being 20 feet.
Properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
The motion for subdivision passes. On the sidewalk waiver, the applicant did make their case for the waiver for approval. Any comments or questions from commissioners?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, just for the fellow commissioners, the city's actually pursuing a grant to reconstruct the streets in and around that entire area. So any sidewalks or anything that would be constructed out there would probably be torn up anyhow. So I would be in favor and recommending that the sidewalk waiver be approved for this one.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Sidewalk waiver passes. Number 11, This is a dual application. Again, we'll take these separately. This is a subdivision at 2301 Mark Farland Road, 108 lots, just under 40 acres. The applicant is present and in agreement with the listed conditions.
This was actually requested for holdover to the September 19th meeting.
Thanks. This is September for Mr. Lawley. I was looking at the wrong notes. We will request, I'll entertain a motion to hold over till September.
So moved.
Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Held over until September. Sorry for that. I was looking at the wrong notes. Number 12, Mr. Matei is recused. We still maintain a quorum for the agenda item. This is a dual application, a zone and a conditional use permit. We'll take them separately. A reminder to commissioners for findings of fact on the rezone and 2 listed conditions. The applicant is present and in agreement.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion on the zoning to approve it, subject to staff recommendations and adoption of finding of facts A, C, D, E, and G.
Second.
Properly moved and seconded with findings of fact A, C, D, E, and G. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion passes. For the conditional use permit, we did have questions regarding parking spaces, and we did have the applicant making sure that additional filings will be handled. Reminder, there are 10 findings of fact and 10 listed conditions. Again, the applicant was in agreement. Entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion of the conditional use of permit, subject to staff recommendations and adopting findings of facts 1, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, and 10.
Properly moved and seconded with findings of fact 1, 3, 4, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion also passes. That concludes the agenda items. We still have 2 items of other business for commissioners. The first is a review of the minutes from the following planning commission. You were sent those electronically for review. We have February 3rd, 18th, March 4 and 18, April 1 and April 15 from 2021. We will, I'll entertain a motion to batch these minutes for approval unless there's any edits or modifications to those minutes after they were reviewed.
Motion to approve all those minutes.
Properly moved and seconded to approve all the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to approve those that batch is ready to go. We will sign those and get those over to staff and then turn it over to staff for call for public hearing comments.
And Mr. Chairman, staff has been working for a few years on updates to the future land use map and the major street plan. We're finally ready to roll them up to you guys for review and approval. There will also be some amendments to the actual map for Mobile document. And we request that the Planning Commission place the public hearing on the August 15th, 2024 meeting. We will have a website available, which I'll email out, and we will have a legal ad run as well, if approved today.
It's been a while for public hearing. We need to entertain a motion for adding the public hearing to the August meeting.
Yes, sir.
Entertain a motion. Properly moved and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion for public hearing in August passes. Thank you. Any further business? Again, we'd like to give warm wishes to our visitor, Mr. Snipes, today. Good luck, and thank you. Meeting adjourned.